I remember my 15th birthday like it was yesterday. It was no different from any of my previous birthdays. 5 of my best friends and I went to the roller rink, followed by a sleepover where I opened gifts and we ate cake and ice cream. Many who have grown up with a traditional American background can probably relate. However, there are many cultures who celebrate birthdays differently. In Hispanic culture, a young girl's 15th birthday is celebrated with a rite of passage called a quinceañera. This tradition celebrates a young girl's transition into womanhood. I became very interested in this celebration after hearing about it from a friend of mine who is Hispanic. The celebration really interested me because it's so different than the traditions I am familiar with. It sounded like fun and as if it held a lot of importance and meaning. I'd like to share with you today some of the history and significance of the quinceañera, how the ritual takes place, and the roles played by men and women in the time-honored tradition. To help you understand the significance of the quinceañera celebration, I'd like to first give you an overview of the history behind it. The quinceañera has been around for hundreds of years. It is believed to have roots in both Aztec and Spanish heritage. According to LearnNC.org, in early times, the purpose of the ceremony was to signify adulthood, marriageable age, and status. It was a way to help prepare young women for their responsibilities in society. The celebration became increasingly popular in the 1930s, and although it signifies the transition from young girl to woman, since that time, celebration has gradually turned a more modern run. Now that you have some background on the celebration, let's take a look at what takes place throughout the course of the ceremony. The ritual consists of several components. A quinceañera ceremony is typically around 6 hours long and involves several hundred guests. Guests usually include family and neighborhood residents and friends. At any quinceañera, you can find the young woman, called the festejada, being celebrated in an elegant ball gown, accented with beautiful jewelry received from gifts from her godparents, and done up with gorgeous hair and makeup. She is surrounded by her court of honor, which is made up of maids of honor and their male escorts. According to thequinceañera.com, more traditional celebrations start with what is called the Thanksgiving Mass. This is a serious ceremony similar to a baptism done to give thanks to God for their blessings. Once the Mass is complete, the young lady leaves a bouquet of flowers for the Virgin de Guadalupe. Then the party is ready to begin. This part of the celebration starts with the entry of the festejada. During the entry, the guests may be seated at their tables and stand to give applause as the young lady enters with her court of honor. The festejada and her court are then seated at the main table and it is time for toasts. The parents will make a toast. Following their toast, the young woman will make a toast as well. This is an important part of the ceremony as it signifies her first words to the community as a young adult. In addition to the grand entry and the toasting, there are other significant events that take place at a quinceañera. Some of these include some touching father and daughter moments. The first of these is the changing of the shoes. The festejada begins her celebration in flat shoes, and in this ritual, her father will take those off and replace them with high heels to symbolize her entrance into womanhood. Another of these events is the waltz, which is the father and daughter's first dance together as a young woman. One of the final events that takes place at the quinceañera is the cake cutting. These aren't just any cakes. Most quinceañera cakes are very large and elaborate. On top is the figure meant to resemble the young woman. At this point, you can find guests listening to music, dancing, and socializing. The festejada and her parents will then cut the cake and serve it to guests in the seating area between the fun. As you can see, the quinceañera is full of fun, pride, and old traditions. Some of those traditions, however, seem to reinforce stereotypical gender roles. Let's take a look at some of the ways in which this is evident. In this ceremony, women are now allowed to take first, such as shaving and wearing makeup. The celebration also signifies a woman's readiness for things such as childbearing and marriage. These things seem to reinforce stereotypes that women are only good for traditional duties, or that they must look up and flawless at all times. Another thing that I noticed about this ceremony is that it seems to reinforce the stereotype that men are in charge. You can see in the ceremony that men are shown to be in power positions. The festejada must not only behave like a proper young woman to show that she is wife material, but must also dance with many men at the celebration. In addition, the role of the father shown as the first man in the young girl's life, indicates that the man is in a position of power and head of the family. Now that we've discussed the roles the gender plays in this ceremony, let's put it together. After learning about the history, the rituals involved, and the role the gender plays in the quinceañera, how does it compare to your own experiences? The quinceañera is a vibrant celebration rich in history and tradition. Although some purposes of the celebration are evolved over time, the core remains the same. The celebration is a huge milestone in a young woman's life as she transitions into adulthood. I hope I've provided you with some insight into this small but important piece of Hispanic culture.